Hello there, myth and history lovers. This is Mr. P of Mr. P's Mythopedia here, and today we're going to take a look at one of Greek mythology's most overlooked characters. Someone who definitely connects to people we may know today, and who may even influence our own lives in ways we can't even imagine as of right now. A character who was seemingly everywhere in many stories, but who was sometimes overshadowed by the individuals he worked with and aided in their times of need. Someone who was a teacher and mentor unlike any other in Greek mythology. Behind every successful person is usually a teacher, a coach, or a figure of authority who lends their wisdom and time towards helping someone become the best person that they possibly could be. We all usually have a person like that in our lives at some point or another, someone who teaches us all of their best tricks, shares their stories, skills, and knowledge, and pushes us on when the going gets tough, even if we want to give up. It may not come as a surprise, then, that many heroes of Greek mythology, while strong and brave all by themselves, still needed such a character to prep them for the battles, quests, and adventures they found themselves thrust into. For many of those brave heroes, that teacher was CHIRON the Centaur, a half-man, half-horse powerhouse of battle arts, practical everyday skills, medicine, art, music, hunting, archery, prophecy, in other words, telling the future, and anything else a cultured adventurer in the Greek world might need to know to survive against the most vicious of monsters and the most vengeful of gods and goddesses. If you wanted to learn the ways of the hero, and learn them well, Chiron was the go-to. You sought out. Anyone else was a much lower second place. On the whole, centaurs tended to be a wild and unruly bunch, who were usually shown as hot-blooded, bad-tempered, and rather vicious in nature. They were notorious for being wild, lusty, overindulgent drinkers, got seriously violent when intoxicated, and generally were uncultured delinquents and thugs. They ran around in packs and tribes, causing all kinds of trouble for non-centaurs they might come across. And that is where Chiron was different. Sure, he had battle in his blood, but he also had culture, and wisdom, and patience, things his brothers had little of. He was notable throughout Greek mythology for his love for teaching children and leading them into a strong adulthood, his gentle nature and compassion for those around him, and his ability to see things clearly when trouble showed up, as it often did. Don't kid yourself, though. Peaceful as he was, Chiron could become a warrior second to none in a moment's notice, taking out his enemies with his trusty bow, battle tactics, and warrior's skills. He was not one to mess with, unless of course you had a death wish. Even though his father was the infamous and nasty-hearted Titan Cronus, Chiron took more after his foster dad, the artsy and usually mellow god of music, arts, and the sun, Apollo, who took Chiron under his wing and taught the centaur much of what he knew, which was quite a lot. It helped to have Apollo's twin sister Artemis around too. As the goddess of the hunt, she taught the young centaur much about how to survive in the wilderness, something he'd later pass on to his students. In many accounts in Greek mythology, and on many vase paintings, Chiron is shown carrying around a long branch with dead rabbits that he has caught tied to it, and he is also shown wearing some seriously stylish clothes, or at least they were for ancient Greek times. Wearing clothing also set him apart from his semi-wild brothers, who would never be caught dead wearing human clothes, and displayed him as a civilized being. Chiron made his home and taught his students high up on Mount Pelion in Greece, and it was there that he married the pretty woodland nymph Chariclo, who bore him several daughters and a son. Being a dad no doubt aided him in training young unruly demigods and mortals who sought him out. Chiron was also a great healer, an astrologer who could read the stars, and respected oracle. In other words, he could see the future and tell you all about it. He was said to be the first among centaurs and highly revered as a teacher and tutor. Among his pupils were many culture heroes as well as even a few gods. Some of the most famous of his students were Asclepius, the future god of medicine, Aristaeus, the god of beekeeping, the great hunter Actaeon, the Athenian hero Theseus, you know, the guy that famously killed the Minotaur, Achilles, the doomed hero of the Trojan War, Jason, who would seek out the Golden Fleece with his Argonauts, Perseus, who was famous for his adventure in slaughtering Medusa, and some accounts even say that he sometimes taught Heracles, you probably know him as Hercules, and the wine god Dionysus a thing or two. A lifetime of teaching and dedication to the passing on of wisdom and knowledge, yet even Chiron couldn't outrun his eventual death. The centaur was accidentally pierced with an arrow belonging to Heracles that had been dipped in the toxic blood of a monster called the Hydra during an attack by a band of his rough and nasty brothers. Heracles and Chiron fought them off, but in the crossfire, Chiron took an arrow and was killed by the Hydra's venomous, poisonous blood. Weirdly, Chiron, who was a master of the healing arts, could not heal himself and willingly gave up his immortality. He was honored by the gods with a place in the sky, identified by the Greeks as the constellation Centaurus, where you can sometimes see him today if you know where and when to look. As a teacher, he influenced many who changed the course of mythological history and who went on to greatness. Just like today's teachers, Chiron sacrificed much of himself to ensure that his students had the best he could possibly give, and maybe even a little more if he could swing it. So, if you have a person like Chiron in your life who does just that for you, who pushes you forward to become better than you are and who you think you can be, and who patiently takes the time to pass on their knowledge to you so that your future might be a good one, make sure to thank them, whoever they may be. They may not know it, but they are in some pretty good company, alongside Chiron the Centaur. If you're an educator listening to this, feel free to use the links to Chiron's story from the Mythopedia for your classes, which gets into much more detail, listed below in the video description. If you're a student or simply a fan of mythology, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and above all, learned something new about a completely fantastic and usually overlooked character. And if you really dig mythology, legends, and other supernatural weirdness, feel free to subscribe to this channel for more, or come visit my other project, Mr. P's Mythopedia. The links to the actual Mythopedia site, as well as our Facebook community, are provided below, so you can follow along for articles, pics, comics, gods, goddesses, monsters, heroes, and all things mythological from around the world. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, thanks for your continued viewership and support, and we'll see you again real soon with another wild adventure in ancient, legendary, mythological awesomeness.